Hello there. Say another live stream. Going to go on for give or take about an hour. The date is 27th of February, Saturday, 4 p.m. in Australia. Let's have a look around the world. So in London, it's currently 5 a.m., so too early for the UK. Los Angeles, 9 p.m. Oh, okay, hang on. All right, I've done an audio check and that has been successful. So that's wunderbar, wonderful. Okay, so yeah, we're doing our time checks. Too early for the UK, which is how we like it. 9 p.m. for Los Angeles, so prime time for them. Let's see if we get any LA Crips or Bloods in the house this afternoon for me. New York, 12 midnight. So 12 midnight. Nigeria, Lagos, 6 a.m. So a little too early for Nigeria, I would imagine. Canada, midnight as well. So maybe what was that guy's name? Filoso. He'll pop in, maybe. I don't know. Let's have a look. So what am I going to do? Well, the live stream should go on for give or take around an hour. There's no promises, there's no guarantees, and there's no refunds. About an hour, maybe more, maybe less. We'll just see. Maybe I get bored. And I am likely to get bored if no one turns up, if there's no one to interact with during the live stream. And I'll probably get a little bit bored and might think to myself, oh, fuck it, who cares? Just to wrap things up and probably even delete the video. But let's hope one or two people come in and keep us all entertained. I mean, that's what it is. It's trying to be a little bit lighthearted whilst looking at some articles. So I have pre-prepared quite a number of articles. I've got just under 20, I believe. The first batch of around 8 are US politics based. And then we've got 4 which are globally based, global politics, Africa and China. And then I've got some cultural wars topics to go through. Now, I've been a little bit too scared to be totally specific in regards to the culture wars articles, but they're all trans related. They're all in regards to the subject of transgenderism, which I've been a little bit scared to post that in the whatever you call it, the live stream title, such, because it's a very controversial, very sensitive topic. It's very easy to be called a transphobe or whatever else, which I'm not, and I'm not trying to encourage that either, or such thoughts either. But I do think it's a very interesting and very important topic. Maybe actually not that important, but it is interesting nonetheless. And I do have a number of articles which are directly related to the transgender topic or indirectly related. And so I would like to go through them if I get around to it. I mean, what I do is I go through 3, 6, 10 major online news publications, most of which are right-wing, not exclusively, but mostly conservative based. I also go through a few other forums, and I just select. I close the window because I don't know, I just prefer the privacy. I just select those topics, those articles, which I feel are either interesting or important. And I've read through all of them. I'm a very good boy. And I've even, because I'm extremely clever and diligent, I've even put them through into some kind of order. So there is a thread to go through this. So hopefully that will allow this live stream to be interesting. But maybe it isn't. I'm actually quite enjoying the last few live streams that I've done. It's been a lot of fun interacting with those that come in and speak to me and each other in chat via text. No one's taken up my offer of coming up on panel as yet, which is still an open invitation, really, to anyone, even if you're new to the channel. There may be some restrictions, blah, 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 some moderation. If you just want to troll, I probably don't want you up on panel. If you want a porn bomb, I'm going to ask that you do quality porn only. But largely, it's an open panel. Why? Well, because why not? You know, I mean, at the end of the day, what am I doing this for? I think I'm doing this for a number of different reasons. None of them compelling reasons, but you know, to do a bit of to have a little bit of fun, to experiment with something new, to perhaps improve my public speaking skills, perhaps to improve my confidence. Who knows? But also, it's an encouragement to read some articles, which perhaps otherwise I wouldn't be bothered to do. But you know, it's an intellectual pursuit, and it's an interaction pursuit. I'm looking to speak about somewhat intellectual topics, not for the sake of trying to be a faux intellectual or anything like that, but just to stretch the brain muscles, you know, just to stretch the brain muscles, to think a little bit, try to think. I think that's a good thing to do. And it's so easy not to think. It's so easy just to watch PewDiePie on YouTube, or watch or play video games, or watch, I don't know, television soaps or movies or whatever it is, most of which don't really encourage us to give too much thought into a subject. So I don't know, just feel a little bit of a need to stretch my mental legs every now and also to interact with some others. It's kind of nice to do that. I like to have a little bit of fun. I like to make a few jokes. Some of my jokes are inappropriate. Some of my jokes or comments are mean. I'm a very nasty person. I'm an evil person. Not really true. I'm just a guy that's trying to have a little bit of fun, and sometimes to do that, you make jokes, and one part of comedy or such, or humor, is to make fun of things, and sometimes that involves people. It's just a little bit of poking, a little bit of banter or whatever. Not overly mean, you know. But if you want to be a snowflake about it, this isn't the right place for you. I'm going to use naughty words. I'm going to say some controversial things, and if we do get anyone join in, they're going to do the same. By the way, 7 minutes in, complete ramble, no one's joined. So you know, that's kind of telling me where this live stream's going, but we'll find out. I'm going to launch into the first article here. We've got a few in regards to US politics, as I mentioned. I'm not going to go through them in depth, because if you're very interested in the subject, you can go on Google and you can read up about this, or watch a more analytical YouTuber or such. But I do think these topics are important, and they're worthwhile you being aware of. Paul Wright, at last. Where the fuck have you been, mate? So Paul joins finally to say greetings, mate, and all bogans, great and small. Yes, that's very. What's the word? It's very well. I mean, inclusive of you. I'll go with inclusive, Paul, to greet all of the bogans. I'm glad to see that you do embrace boganism, or at least don't shun them overly. I'm not a big fan of bogans. They have their place, as far away from me as possible, is how I like it. But I do appreciate you welcoming all bogans. And you know what? I will too welcome all bogans to the live stream. Let's have a look at this first article. But by the way, I'll quickly ask Paul, how are you, my good friend? How are you, Paul? Thanks again for joining, even though you're fucking 8 minutes 53 seconds late. How are you today? Is everything good with yourself, Paul? Please do tell whilst I read through this first article. So Biden bombs Syria to punish Iran for attacks on US in Iraq. So you're probably aware of this. This news is 2 days old. Joe Biden personally approved United States airstrikes on Syria on Thursday in response to recent Iranian-backed militia attacks on US forces in Iraq. The Biden airstrikes reportedly targeted a facility in Syria belonging to Iranian-backed militias. Why are there Iranian-backed militias in Syria, Paul? Why? That's I don't know. That's weird to me. You have a militia from another country housed in another country. I mean, that, to me, how can Syria allow that? That's Not particularly good. And I suppose you could say, and I'm no expert here, as you well know, Paul, but I suppose you could say, how could Russia allow that? Because don't Russia control Syria? That's what we're led to believe, aren't we? That Syria is merely a puppet for Putin. 2 days after Biden took over the White House last month, US troops were seen entering Syria from Iraq, signaling a reversal of President Trump's efforts to end United States involvement in forever wars in the Middle East. Okay, so there we go. So there's been a rocket strike against Iranian-backed militias within Syria, and that's happened 36 days or so after Biden became the president. So pretty quickly. Did Trump bomb Syria? Yes, he did. He did that 2 or 3 times, didn't he? I mean, he definitely did it at least once. I think at least a couple of times. So Biden hasn't done anything that Trump hasn't done, but Biden has done it very, very quickly, hasn't he? 36 days into his presidency, and he's at risk of starting a new war. So there we go. If you want to know more about that subject, read into it yourself. But just so that you're aware, Biden has already bombed Syria. Paul says, I'm extraordinary. I'm tardy to the party. How are you? Yes, Paul. And I hope you envisage this as a boxing Helena type garden party. That's how I envisage this, these affairs of ours. Please don't misinterpret that. I'm pretty good. Thanks, Paul. I'm pretty good. Been working hard lately. Been doing exercise. I got on my exercise bike. I've got a recumbent exercise bike, which is you sit down like a lower level. It's more horizontal, and it's much more comfortable than a standard upright exercise bike, which I've used previously. The recumbent is really nice, and I just stick it in front of my computer, and I do something. So I look at articles. And I also played video games, and I went on for an hour, and the time just flies. So I feel good. I've just done that. I've done an hour on the bike half an hour ago. So I don't know. That's good. It makes you feel good about yourself for having done something and achieved your goal, however minor it is. And also, of course, the exercise kicks off endorphins and whatever else with brain chemicals. So I'm doing all right. Thank you, Paul. I'm doing good, I suppose. Let's have a look at this next article. Biden attempts the administrative abolishment of ICE, which will involve the termination of thousands of jobs at the ICE agency. So the Biden administration is currently attempting to enact an administrative abolishment of ICE, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Department. So yeah, well done, America. You've just voted in Biden. Oh, actually, that's not right. He stole the election. So we're told. So some of us believe. Not necessarily proven. YouTube, don't ban me right now. But yeah, Biden, who legally or otherwise is your new president, well, he says, fuck ICE. Why do you have an organization paid for by taxpayers, part of the government essentially, which all they do is protect the fucking borders? Oh, a lot of bullshit. You don't need them. Why do you need that? Why do you have an organization stopping illegals coming in? Why? That is so inhumane, Paul. Why are you stopping other people from South America traveling the Mexican border, coming in illegally? I mean, come on, can't you just like relax a little bit? It is 2020s, Paul. Yeah, can't you Americans just chill out and just let them in? Come on, hey Mexican, hey Guatemalan, hey Venezuelan. You want to come into America illegally? Come on in, buddy. You want housing? Okay, yeah, no worries, mate. You're right. You deserve housing. You've come here illegally and you haven't been given a house yet. Aren't we slack? Let's give you a house. Let's give you free healthcare. Let's give you free education. So, given that, Biden's doing only the sensible thing here, really, Paul. And he's saying, look, fuck it. Let's just close ICE. Let's defund ICE. Get rid of it. It's an unnecessary burden on the taxpayer. All it's doing is protecting the borders. That's fucking pointless, isn't it? Why would you bother with that? So the Biden administration's proposal outlined to top officials at the agency would keep ICE's name and its investigation side, but effectively do away with its ability to enforce immigration laws. ICE would have little, if any, ability to do anything about people who choose to overstay a visa or illegally enter the United States at its land borders. So that basically means that if you're an illegal immigrant in America and ICE knock on your door or your car window or whatever, you can turn around, or the illegal immigrants can turn around to the ICE officers and say, fuck off, buddy, you can't do nothing. Biden changed the laws. So sure, you've still got a job, ICE officer, but you can't do anything. You can't arrest me. You can't deport me. Suck on those bag of dicks. It's probably what the illegal immigrants say. Paul says, in regards to the Syria question, I don't think that America belongs in Syria or most foreign soil. This isn't a flippant game of Risk. Yes, Paul is referring to the popular board game, which is also now a video game, called Risk, manufactured by Hasbro, I dare say, Paul. And I've never really played Risk. I have it on my PlayStation 4, but it's a really bad version of it. The AI, I can't remember exactly what it does, but it just doesn't feel genuine. It just feels like every game's rigged, and I didn't really know how to play it. Didn't really enjoy it, to be honest, Paul. I don't know if you're a Risk fan, Paul, but if you are, may I suggest Stratego? Stratego is a game which was popular. Probably came out a couple of decades after Risk. Risk is actually a very old game. I used to own a vintage version of Risk. When was the game? My computer's too slow. Okay, that can't even work. I was going to Google when was the game Risk made. I think it would be like the 60s, if not before. Anyway, Paul, on the important side of what you said, you don't think that America belongs in Syria or most foreign soil, and I mean, I'm not smart enough to understand what global economics, I guess, geopolitics. That's probably the better term. Geopolitics. I don't really understand what's going on, but yeah, I mean, it doesn't really make sense, does it, for America or any other nation to be involved in these other nations? Why? I mean, one reason is to stop the proliferation of nuclear weapons, but hang on, how many nuclear weapons are there in the world? I mean, there are tens of thousands. How many nuclear weapons in the world? Oh, that's okay. There was 70,000 active weapons, nuclear weapons, in 1986. And according to this Google response, there are now around 3,750 in the world. Hang on. So now it says 13,890 total nuclear warheads in the world. So, is that accurate? Is that true? Who knows? But there's plenty of nuclear weapons out there, and there have been for decades. So, I mean, I don't know. It just seems weird for America and NATO and whoever else to say, hey, Middle Eastern country, you're not allowed these weapons that our allies have got. You're not allowed them. And if you try to make them, we're going to invade and destroy your country. I don't know. I mean, that does seem a little bit weird, doesn't it? Why spend trillions of dollars invading and destroying Iraq and Iran, no, not Iran, Iraq and Afghanistan, why spend trillions of dollars destroying those nations when you could have spent those $1 trillion building up the infrastructure within America, or developing new technologies which could benefit various industries worldwide? I mean, it just seems, it's a sick practice, really, Paul. Wouldn't you agree? I think you do. Why wouldn't you? But anyway, there's that article there. Biden is defunding ICE. He's castrating ICE, essentially. Let's have a quick look at Paul's comment before we move to the next article, which is also in regards to immigration. I prefer chess as a game more so than Risk, and the high stakes game that Sean Connery played in Never Say Never Again. Would that be Baccarat? It was Baccarat, wasn't it? Am I pronouncing it correctly? I think I am. Baccarat. It's the ultimate test of cerebral fitness, said Murray Head. Who's Murray Head? I don't know Murray Head. One Night in Bangkok. I don't know the One Night in Bangkok reference either. I do remember that. I think I half remember the scene that you're referring to, though, with Sean Connery in Never Say Never Again. Playing Baccarat, I believe. Okay, so this article here, feds to bus and fly Biden's migrants to US homes. So this article lets us know that essentially ICE, or the United States government, instead of deporting illegal immigrants, it's going to be busing them to various parts of America. So all of these kids which are locked up in cages in these ICE centers and such, they're going to be transported to different places across America. So that's good, isn't it? So if you're an illegal immigrant, come over to America, and if you get caught, if you are held, which you no longer will be because ICE has been defunded, but if you came over here a few months ago under the evil Trump administration, and you did get caught and you're held in a detention center, good news, buddy. You're going to be moved out of the detention center. You're going to be moved to a new city. You're going to be housed by approved sponsors, and you're free. You're home free, mate. You probably won't be an American citizen immediately, but you'll have access to housing and education and healthcare and all of this kind of thing. I believe I did read this article, but I can't remember it all. So there we go. I just feel that this is an important subject to have some level of awareness of. My interpretation is that Biden is doing what I thought the Democrats, whoever got in, would do, which is stop the building of the border wall, defund ICE, and just let immigrants do whatever the fuck they want. Give them everything. Paul says, the song, he was playing a video game against the villain. Oh, okay, that's something else. Every country was worth a certain dollar amount. They launched missiles against one another. Okay, yeah, that rings a bell too. Very much like, or kind of similar at least, to the movie War Games, starring Matthew Broderick and some lady who I can't remember the name of. A wonderful film, which I saw in my childhood. Can't remember if I saw that at the cinema. I think I might have. Bit of a classic. War Games. I mean, War Games is still remembered for its line, which was something like, "The best strategy is not to play," something like that. War Games movie quote. Oh, look up movie quote. You remember the movie War Games, don't you? Shall we play a game? What kind of Okay, well, there is a famous quote, but I can't seem to find it. I too like the game chess, Paul. I too like the game chess. I'm not I'm not particularly good at chess, but I can, if I play like a friend, I'll probably beat them, or I'll do well probably. But I won't be able to play someone that, you know, actually knows how to play the game properly. Paul has referenced the movie Red Dawn, which I know is an action film, sci-fi, but and I know the name of it. It would be from. Oh, I don't know this one at all. Then it is the dawn of World War III in Midwestern America. A group of teenagers band together to defend their town and their country from invading Soviet forces. Starring Patrick Swayze. See, I would have thought, who was the guy that was in, I think, Rocky 3, the blonde who played a Russian. I can't remember if he was Russian. That's who I would have thought would have been in this movie, but I was wrong. Shows you what I know. Would it have been Rocky 3? Okay, I don't know. And my computer's too slow for me to bother with. So I don't know. There we go. There's about a little bit about US immigration. And here's another article on the same subject. Your new Attorney General nominee, Merrick Garland, refuses to call illegally crossing the border a crime. So he was asked a question during a hearing, and the question was, do you believe that illegal entry at America's borders should remain a crime? And Merrick Garland, your new Attorney General nominee, he said, I haven't thought about that question. I just haven't thought about that question. I think the president has made clear that we are a country of with borders and a concern about national security. I don't know of any proposal to decriminalize, but still make it unlawful to enter. All right. So basically, he was asked a very simple, very clear, straightforward, entirely reasonable question. Do you believe that illegal entry at America's borders should remain a crime? The only sensible answer ought to be, well, yes, of course, you dumb motherfucker. Obviously, illegal entry should remain a crime for any fucking country, you dumb cunt. Oh, that's the only reasonable response. However, your new Attorney General couldn't manage to say that. He had to manage to garble this nonsense. This nonsense, saying he doesn't know. He doesn't know. It's too complicated, this subject, as to whether or not America's borders should remain and it should be continue to be illegal to cross the borders. He can't come up with a decent answer to that because he doesn't know. He doesn't know what madness Biden has planned. He doesn't know if Biden's just going to say, fuck it, we are a country of no borders anymore. If you want to come over, it ain't even illegal anymore. There's no need to have ICE. Obviously, we're going to defund and get rid of ICE because it's no longer illegal to cross the border. You know, if you want to come in, you just come in. You know, and once you are here, you're not going to be staying in a detention center. Why should you stay in a detention center? You cross the border. We can't even say you cross the border illegally because it's no longer illegal. You know, that's your Attorney General is suspecting that Biden is going to make all borders open in America. That's what it looks like to me. Paul says, I used to play all-night marathons and drink vodka against my friend, Tony. I won most and lost some. He's talking about Paul's talking about chess. I'm the bishop of battle. I have 13 progressively harder levels. So it sounds like you're pretty good. Oh, we've got a new guest. Derek, the Ghetto Horse, number 23. That's some good reporting, more better than CNN. You have my vote. Well, thank you very much, Derek, the Ghetto Horse, 23. I'm not running for office, but if I were to, then I would have your vote. You've guaranteed me that vote, which is wonderful. All I ask, Derek, is that if you do enjoy this video, then stick around. Don't you know, I mean, I suppose you can if you want to, but I'd prefer you didn't just say one thing and then fuck off like most people do. Stick around, make a few comments, comment on a few things, have a little chat with Paul, have a game of chess with Paul if you play chess. So and also like and subscribe, and feel free. It's an open panel, so you know, you can come on if you want. If you do, let me know if you want to come on and talk, blah blah blah. Anyway, going to move on to the next subject, Derek and Paul, which is Biden Attorney General, the same one we just spoke about, vows to prosecute white supremacists who stormed the United States Capitol on January the 6th. So Joe Biden's Attorney General pick Judge Merrick Garland pledged blah 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 blah. He says that he's going to focus the Justice Department's prosecutorial efforts on white supremacist rioters. His quote is, "If confirmed, I will supervise the prosecution of white supremacists and others who stormed the Capitol on January the 6th, a heinous attack that sought to disrupt a cornerstone of our democracy, the peaceful transfer of power to a newly elected government. That critical work is but a part of the broad scope of the department's responsibilities." Okay, so basically, he's just making it very clear that if he is confirmed to be your new Attorney General, that it's going to be a priority for him to prosecute all of the white supremacists that entered the Capitol on your riots. By the way, what was going on in DC mid 2020? I mean, you had in DC, you had riots, you had destruction from all of these mostly peaceful protesters. I mean, what's my point? My point is what happened on Capitol 6 shouldn't have happened. No, it wasn't a good thing, but it was not the heinous criminal activity, destructive activity that you experienced in mid 2020, around June 2020, when DC was overrun by, I believe, BLM and Antifa protesters. And I'm trying to show you some pictures, which I'm struggling to find, but of the city burning. You know, there was a lot of fires all over DC, and here they are. Here's your new Attorney General saying, "Oh, I don't care about those Antifa, BLM, mostly peaceful protesters that burned down multiple cities during the course of 2020. I don't care about those guys. I care about the white supremacists that invaded the Capitol on January the 6th and turned over a trash can. That's what I'm going to focus on." Anyway, going to move to the next article, which I'll remind you, because I'm extremely clever, I put the articles in some kind of order. So they do follow a little bit of thread. And here's the little bit of thread. Joe Biden admitted in an interview some time ago that he also invaded the Capitol when he was 21 years of age. And I would like to play the video for you. But it's not, this browser isn't really working. Why is that? But yeah, in this clip on David Letterman, Joe Biden claims that he invaded pretty much on his own the Capitol building when he was 21 years of age, and he was subsequently arrested. So, you know, if your new Attorney General is complaining about those that investigate, let's watch this.
And I got arrested. It was a Saturday. I was down visiting some friends at Georgetown University, and I came up on a Saturday morning because I was fascinated with the Senate. And then a Saturday session, I walked up those days, no guards stopping everywhere, and they just got out of session. I walked in the back. All of a sudden, I found myself in the chamber, and I was stunned. I walked up, sat down in the presiding officer's seat. Guy grabbed me by the shoulder, said, "You're under arrest."
So what was that like, walking into the Great Senate Chamber at 29 years old?
There he is. He walked into the Great Senate Chamber when he was 21, illegally. So, hey, Attorney General nominee Judge Merrick Garland, why don't you impeach Biden for being a white supremacist that invaded your Capitol building when he was 21 years of age? I don't know. What's my point? My point is, I'm just pointing out some hypocrisy here. Your new president, Joe Biden, literally invaded the Capitol building. So you've got all of this massive hoo-ha about what happened on January the 6th, how heinous the acts were. AOC scared for her life, scared she was going to be raped by the Republicans she had to stay in a room with, and all of this. And all the while, Joe Biden did this decades ago. Talking about Biden doing some silly things, this article here, and if it allows us to play the video, I will, but this article here lets us know that Biden accidentally, seemingly, used the N-word whilst reading a speech. So yeah, this will let us know. So hopefully you can hear this.
Look, the range of challenges Europe and the United States must take on together is broad and complex. I'm eager to hear next from my good friends, outstanding leaders. Chancellor Merkel.
He does say it. It's pretty clear. He says, "I'm eager to hear. I'm N-word to hear." So it seems like to me that it was a slip of the tongue. He didn't mean to say the N-word, but he did say the N-word. Is that important? Well, in a lot of ways, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say this subject isn't that important because it's a slip of the tongue. Okay, these things happen. So it's not that important in that regard. However, having said that, it could be indicative of some dementia or neurological disease that Biden is suffering. Could be an indication of that. So it could be it could be an important indication in that regard. But also on another point, what's so bad with saying the N-word anyway? I honestly don't think it's that bad. Sorry. But I don't, and I do think it's very bad, in fact, racist for it to be socially acceptable for some groups, people of color, to be able to say that word, and not others to be able to say that word. White people, if you're a white person and you use the N-word, they're in public, then you're at risk of being physically attacked. If you say it online, then you're at high risk of being blocked or banned or shunned in some way or another, merely for using a word. You know, we don't live in the 1950s anymore. It's now 2021. The meaning of the N word, it has multiple meanings. It can mean different things to different people. There's multiple different meanings. It's not the same as what it meant back in the 1950s. It's just not. So, you know, is it so important that that Biden accidentally used the N-word during a speech? No, ultimately it's not. But I've brought it up because it's, I guess, mildly amusing. But also, why not? Why not? I mean, the left have attacked Trump for every little thing. I mean, how many articles or slurs have been made against Trump for looking orange because he chooses to have a fake tan, which he's entitled to choose? You know, so if the left are just going to harass and harangue people, conservatives on the right, including Trump and others, for nonsense reasons, unimportant reasons, then I kind of think it's right that these small things are hyped up for Biden too. I mean, I guess two wrongs don't make a right, but at the same time, the left plays dirty, and I don't besmirch the right for having the strength to play dirty too. Paul says rap endorses it, the N-word. Yes, it does. And I'm going to say, Paul, it's not only rap. I mean, it's modern culture. I mean, certainly modern urban culture, youth culture. Youth culture uses the N-word for various reasons. A lot of it is for shock value, to highlight, oh, I can be aggressive, I can be shocking, I can be naughty. Look at you. You're being offended by words. You're a snowflake. It can have that kind of meaning to it. It can mean lots of other things. And I don't find it offensive. I used to go into an online forum, and there would be one guy in particular that would go into a forum, this channel or such, and they would repeatedly use the N-word, 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 just like endlessly, constantly, purposefully, to be offensive. And it was generally aimed at one person in particular that was black, that was a part of that channel or such. And I initially found it shocking, disgusting. I was disgusted by it. Why would this guy come in just to say this? And this is horrendous. This is outrageous. It's unarguably racist. But then at a certain point, I realized, well, he's only saying it to shock people. He's only doing it to have a bit of a laugh. He's only doing it because it annoys this one person, and it gets that one person upset. He's trolling, purposefully trolling. And so that kind of changed my view. My view was, you know what? I don't actually find this that offensive. It's not particularly nice. It's not something that I would do. It's kind of mean of them to make fun just to annoy one person in particular. It's kind of bullying. But that's what the internet, that's what that forum was. It was it was the Wild West. And this guy's just having a bit of a laugh. And I realized I don't need to be offended by that. If others are offended by that, fine, that's up to them. But I don't need to get offended on their behalf. It doesn't offend me. I can actually see the humorous side of it. So, why can't I continue to have that point of view? Why can't I continue not to be offended by that word? I'm not allowed to be. We're not allowed to be. We have to be offended. We have to, even if it doesn't affect us personally, we have to now bend on our knees and kiss black people's boots as a way for white people to apologize for their white privilege. I mean, that's where we're at. So I'm wrong for not being offended by someone having a joke. I'm wrong. Rap does endorse the N-word, and if you listen to, Lil Wayne or so many artists, it's just all over. And I made one YouTube video. Hey Savage, Savage Feek says, "No, we do not," and then they go on with their theory. Never. Savage, please do elaborate. I don't really know what you're referring to. So I guess you're referring to white people kissing the boots of black people as a way to apologize for our white privilege. Is that what you're referring to? Please do elaborate. Very interested in your point of view, and if you do enjoy the video, the live stream, the conversation, please consider liking and subscribing. Would like to hear your point of view. All right, whilst you do that, Savage, I'm going to move on to this next article, US politics. I think it's the last article. Savage says yes, meaning yes, they were referring to kissing white people kissing the boots of black people to apologize for their white privilege. Well, Savage, you are wrong. You've said never. I mean, that is false. You're wrong. Let me show you how you're wrong. Never in caps. Now, I do appreciate your use of caps. I think it's very effective. You've grabbed my attention, but I'm going to prove you wrong here. Hopefully, I mean, I know that I'm right. I know that you can be proved wrong. I just need to find the video to show you. Savage says, "I know what they have done." So Savage is saying, "Hey, yeah, okay, fine. I do know of this example you're about to bring up, white cis male. But I mean, Savage, you did say never. Okay, and you know, unfortunately, you're wrong. Savage is saying disgusting." Well, we've just seen it, Savage. I mean, I've just proved you wrong, right? I mean, I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm just saying you said something and it is wrong, and I've just shown you that it's wrong. So I've seen other videos. I've seen other examples. I've seen other examples of white people kissing black people's boots as a means to apologize for their white privilege. So, you know, you're wrong to say never. You're wrong, Savage. I wish you were right, but you're not. You know, Savage says freaks, and also Savage says seen them all. So Savage is very aware of this subject. This subject being whites apologizing for their whiteness. I've made a video. If you want, if anyone wanted to look at my previous videos that I've made about Oprah, there's a show that she has, an episode that she has, discussing whites apologizing for their white privilege. Can't remember all of the details, but yeah, I mean, there's this lady on there, member of the public, and she's just like a sniveling wretch. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry for being white. Oh, we're so bad. We're so evil. And there's so many examples of it. Who's that guy, the super bad actor? There's a video of him apologizing. Yeah, Jonah Hill. Jonah Hill. Yeah, there's a little clip. He's in an interview. He's been interviewed by children, and one of the little kiddie winkles say, I've heard white people are bad. Is that true?" And Jonah says, "Yeah, that's true. Yeah, all white people are bad." You know, can't find that video, but I ain't lying. Savage. They did that. Okay. All right. So look, that's sort of the United States politics topics I wanted to go through. Yeah. Savage says I've seen it, so Savage is aware of what I'm talking about. That's good. So I'm going to have a look at a couple of global politics subjects. Here we go. Oh, Paul, very good timing to make that comment. White farmers and people are being murdered in South Africa. That's who I have sympathy for. Yeah, Paul. I'm taking an interest in what's happening in Africa. So I have on Twitter, I have a few friends, online friends that that are from Nigeria and one from South Africa too. And I've taken somewhat of an interest in what's going on in Africa. And yeah, it's, I'm just trying to make it clear that I am no expert. I'm not that well read or that well versed on the subject. But there is a lot of really heinous crimes going on in many African countries. And it's really quite shocking. So here are a couple. This one's dated yesterday, 26th of February, and it's a Nigerian story. Savage, I know about this. I have spoke about on Twitter. It's genocide. Which Savage are you referring to? What Paul said? White people being murdered in South Africa. I mean, that's been going on for years. White farmers. Yeah. Okay. Good. So look, I don't know all about it. I mean, the South African thing. There are terrible. I mean, I'll say stories, but that's not the right term. They're real. You'll know this. You'll both know this. The women and children, I think, being raped and just like being burned in boiling water, murdered. They're unable to protect themselves. I thought I had heard that there has been a turnaround, that the government has stopped attacking white farmers. I thought that had happened because that had happened in another African country where the white farmers were kicked out and then they would be begged to come back because the black farmers just simply couldn't. The black farmers just simply couldn't run the farms. They weren't able to grow crops, and then you got starving people. Anyway, so whilst you guys talk, Savage, Savage, I'm going to be an arsehole. I'm going to criticize you, okay? Yeah, Zimbabwe, Paul. That's right. That's what I was thinking, Paul. Yeah, the Zimbabwe government made an enemy of white farmers, made a pariah of white farmers. They legalized the murdering, I think is fair to say, or roughly fair to say, the murdering of white farmers. Black people took over the white farms legally, and then due to failed crops, the government turned around 18 months later, something like that, and said, "Oh, you know what? Please come home, white farmers. Oh, you can have your land back. Yeah, please come on. We only killed your fucking wife and your dogs, couple of your children. You got out okay, didn't you, white farmer? Come on, get over it, mate. These things happen. Come back and make us all some food." Is what the Zimbabwean government said. Savage, I'd like to criticize you if you don't mind. Well, actually, if you do mind or don't mind, I'm going to criticize you anyway. Can you just try to make your comments, I don't know, just a little bit clearer, just a little bit more substantial? I'm sure you're able to do that. Maybe you're not. Maybe English isn't your first language. But can I guess, request that with your comments, you just make them a little bit clearer. Instead of putting 2 or 3 words, put a sentence or 2 together. Do you know what I mean? Because Savage, you seem like an interesting person. You seem that you're interested in these topics. You seem like you want to contribute to the conversation, and we want you to contribute too. But it's going to be easier if you put a little bit of effort into putting a sentence or a clear thought that we can understand together. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, I've said that. If you think I'm an arsehole, then whatever. I don't care. All right. But this story here, a militia of some 100 armed men stormed into a girls' boarding school in northwest Nigeria and abducted over 300 of the schoolgirls. It was the second such kidnapping in less than a week. The attack took place in a region where mass kidnappings are on the rise. riding motorcycles and off-road vehicles. The men entered the school grounds around midnight. They forced some of the girls to walk with them. One of the teachers said that 600 teenage girls had been in the dormitories during the attack, and only about 50 have since been accounted for. So that's what's happening. This isn't the first time that this has happened, and it's happened by Boko Haram. So the assault was claimed in a video by a branch of the Boko Haram Islamic, there's a keyword, terror group led by Abubakar Shekau. The bandits released the teenagers. Oh, okay, right. So last December, a group of bandits acting on behalf of Boko Haram kidnapped 344 students in a boarding school, and the bandits released the teenagers after a week of captivity following negotiations with authorities. Savage, feel free to embellish on that, elaborate on that. Feel free, mate. I'll call you mate. So look, there we go. So that's what's happening in Nigeria. It's happened before, and it's happened twice in a weekend. Hundreds of schoolgirls are being kidnapped. Hopefully they'll be released, but they'll only be released if and when the authorities capitulate to terrorists and pay a ransom, which is not ideal. And would you imagine that all of those hundreds of teenage schoolgirls are unharmed? I wouldn't. I would presume that perhaps even dozens of them are murdered or raped, physically abused, beaten, starved. They're going to be mistreated. They're not going to be put up in the Hilton hotel in Nigeria. They're going to be mistreated. I mean, it's a dreadful situation, and I don't know. Nigeria is a very confusing place. It seems like there is some wealth going around, and it also seems that these types of heinous acts of kidnapping and massacres are frequent, are regular occurrences. Savage says, is it selfish to say, do not bring it to my country? So you're referring to Islam, Savage. Is it selfish to say, do not bring it to my country? Is that selfish? You know what, Savage, I would say, right, first of all, I'll make it clear that I'm going to be careful with my words, or I'm going to try to be careful with my words. I am likely to self-censor myself on this subject that you're discussing. Okay, so I'm going to make that fairly clear. But first of all, so what if it is selfish? So what? You're allowed to be selfish. Humans are selfish. Humans have self-interest, and we follow our self-interest a lot. You are entitled to put yourself and your family first. You're entitled to do that. So whether or not, Savage, it is selfish for you to say, do not bring it to my country, so what? I don't care. You're entitled to have that thought. You're entitled to express that thought, or rather you ought to be entitled to express that thought. It seems that it's very clear that on social media, you and others are not free to express that thought. You're not free to do it, which I think is disgusting, to not be able to express your thoughts in that manner. And in public life too, in your own in real life situation. If you go to some family members, some friends, some colleagues, some employers, and say, you know what, here's my feeling on this subject, you can be shunned. Me personally, Savage, I'm like, right, let me tell you my approximate opinion on this subject. And again, I'm self-censoring myself and being careful with my words. I'm not being entirely clear. on purpose. But here's one of my thoughts. Paul, I'd like to hear what you think of what I'm about to say, right? I've come across some people online who are very religious and they believe in the Old Testament. They believe in the Old Testament and they believe in things such as real life demons and other things, which to me, as an atheist, I'm going to say, with all due respect, seem silly, seem absurd, seem kind of weird to have this belief in the Old Testament. I've never grown up knowing anybody that believed in the Old Testament. So I've come across some of these people online and I felt that their religious beliefs are weird from my point of view. But ultimately I feel, well, they're entitled to believe whatever they want. And outside of them having these beliefs, which I believe are a little bit weird, I quite like their personality, you know. Other than that, which I disagree with, that you know, they seem to be interesting, funny, intelligent, whatever else. So I have no problem with that person, you know. There's religious freedom. We're all allowed to believe what we want, you know what I mean? So I'm tolerant of their beliefs, which I think are ridiculous, you know. So if you take that same approach to, you know, racism or Islamophobicism or transphobicism or whatever, my views remain roughly the same. Even if I disagree with you, Savage, and I'm not saying that I do, but even if I do, if you have these strong views against a particular religion or such, even if I disagree with you, what does it matter? You're allowed to have your opinion. You know, maybe I would imagine that your opinion is based on I would assume that your opinion is based on experience, is based on some level of statistics, some level of understanding of the world. Your opinion is very likely to be based on some facts. And if you look into these subjects, you'll sure enough, you'll find that there are facts to support certain views, you know, opposing views. So, you know, yeah, Savage says, tolerance is getting us done in. I mean, what I was saying, Savage, is that um, I believe to a certain extent, I am tolerant of other people's views, even if I disagree with them. And I feel it's a shame that there are some views which, you know, you'll be cancelled to have. You know, the cancel culture. There's an article which I don't have up, but I can perhaps find it. But the UK police had to apologise because they had a billboard, effectively, which said something like, "It's an offence to be offensive." Let's see if we can find that. Yeah, here we go. See how good I am at doing this, man. I've impressed myself. Where did that open though? Oh, here we go. All right. Just briefly, this article says that the UK police force, the United Kingdom Police, has been forced to apologise after claiming being offensive is an offence. The computer's slow for whatever reason, but they had a billboard, as we'll see in a second, and it says it's an offence to be offensive. You're not allowed to have these thoughts, Savage. You must be re-educated. You need to be put into a re-education camp. Being offensive is an offence. All right, Savage, some of your views are an offence. You're not allowed to have these certain chemical compounds within your brain which are creating these thoughts. You're going to have to be re-educated, my friend. Okay? because some of your thoughts are illegal. I mean, this is straight out of George Orwell's 1984, is it not, Paul? Straight out of George Orwell. Paul says, did you see the video of the lovely blonde South African woman who put her knickers or panties over her face because she didn't have a mask? She was wearing a nice long dress. Yeah, I did see that, Paul. I did see that. Yeah. She takes her panties off, put it over her face. I don't know. It seems a little bit. I don't know. I mean, people do these kind of things as a stunt. They do it for attention. They do it to go viral, and I kind of get that vibe a little bit. But I was watching a live stream yesterday, and there was one of the people on the panel. They were saying that during the lockdown, which is still ongoing to some extent, that they're not going outside of the house much. They're really, they're denying themselves social interactivity. And when they do go to the shops, they experience heightened anxiety. And this lady on the panel that I was watching, I'll tell you the channel for you guys. You might be interested in it. It's Luther's channel. So one of the ladies on the panel was saying that, she drove to the shops. She remembered she didn't have a mask. So she got really angry at herself and, kind of panicked and was frustrated. She had to drive home to get her mask so that she could drive back to the shops, because she knew if she was to go into the shops with no mask, she was going to be harassed and harangued. And, like she would harass or harangue others. So Savage is continuing to say several different things. So here's a couple of things that Savage says. Tolerance is getting us done in. Liberal bullshit. Enough is enough. We are being screwed. So Savage is angry. Savage is angry. And anger is a perfectly fine, perfectly normal, perfectly healthy emotional response. The police are anti-white, which their employers let in the country. Savage also changes the subject. Savage says, never had a mask. It's all bullshit. Never have, never will. Well, you may, Savage. You may, and it's not just about you, Savage. You may, your neighbor may, your friends, your family may say never have, never will, but they may have to. I mean, there are incidences of employers insisting that their employees have the vaccination, or they no longer have a job. I knew this would be the case, by the way, and that's what it's going to be. So if you want to, you Savage, you may be in the position where you don't need a job, you don't need to be subject to an employer. Maybe that's the case. Maybe you're in a situation whereby, for whatever reason, you never have to subject yourself to having to wear a mask. But not everyone's in that situation. Maybe you have to wear a mask to go to work. You're on public transport, you have to wear a mask. You want to go to the shops, you have to wear a mask. You want to go on an aeroplane, you have to wear a mask. Savage says it's illegal. I think he or she is talking about the enforcement of wearing a mask. Take them to courts. He's saying, Savage, he or she is saying that the authorities need to be taken to courts. They're enforcing illegal laws, is basically what Savage is saying. Savage is saying, actually, mate, I am a fucking employer. I hire people, is what Savage is stressing. Savage, I mean, maybe you're at risk, your business, you personally are at risk of your business being sued by an employee or a visitor to your premises, presuming you have a premises, should should they contract COVID, if they were to say, if you had a premises, an office or a factory or a shop, whatever it is, and if you had multiple employees there at the same time, and you were to say to them, fuck it, don't need to wear masks, in fact, never wear a mask, and if one of your employees contracted COVID and was able to display the potential that they contracted COVID from another one of your employees, then you could be liable. You could be sued up the wazoo. I'm no lawyer. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just guessing. But I would think that that's a risk as an employer not to kowtow to these laws, mandatory mask wearing. I would have thought. Paul says, it's like Malcolm McDowell being tortured in A Clockwork Orange and watching videos of ultraviolence. That's such a memorable clip, isn't it? And isn't it? It was mimicked in the film. Was it called Get Off? That was made by or directed by one of the guys of Key and Peele. Know what I'm talking about? Get Out. Get Out. That's it. Get Out. Which was highly rated, this film. It was the talk of the town at the time. And I watched it. I didn't really click with it. I didn't see what the fuss was about. I mean, Clockwork Orange, when was that? 1975 or something? I wonder if I would get a copyright strike for playing this. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, that video went weird. Paul owns the soundtrack to A Clockwork Orange. That's a film I should watch again, for sure. For sure. All right, so I'm going to go back to these. Another article about Africa. Hundreds died in Axum massacre during Tigray War, says Amnesty. Hundreds of unarmed civilians were massacred in less than 48 hours by Eritrean troops during the war in the northern Ethiopian province of Tigray last year, Amnesty has said. The soldiers systematically killed hundreds of civilians in the northern city of Axum, opening fire in the streets and conducting house-to-house raids in a massacre that may amount to a crime against humanity. Investigators from Amnesty International spoke to survivors and witnesses who described extrajudicial executions, indiscriminate shelling, and widespread looting after Ethiopian and Eritrean troops led an offensive to take control of the city during the conflict with the Tigray People's Liberation Front in mid-November 2020. I'm not going to go through the full details. This isn't hot off the presses news. It dates back a few months. But to me, it's just another thing to be aware of. It's good to have a little bit of awareness of what's going on in Africa. In Africa, there are a lot of fucking massacres going on. I've read about a lot. I can't remember all the details, but in many different African countries, there's all kinds of different massacres, which involving the deaths of dozens or hundreds. Paul asked, did you hear that they were protecting the mythical Ark of the Covenant? Yeah, I did. I think 800 Ethiopians died. I didn't actually read into this one, I think. Yeah. "800 people killed in the massacre of Ethiopia's Ark of the Covenant." And this happened in November last year. Some 800 people were reportedly killed during a massacre at a Christian church. Oh, okay. It is the same subject. At a massacre at a Christian church in Aksum, Ethiopia, where worshippers believe the Ark of the Covenant is housed. So, yeah, it happened in the Tigray region. It came under siege last year amid clashes between government forces and rebel militia, resulting in hundreds of deaths, which have only become public knowledge now. Due to Tigray's phone lines being cut and a ban on journalists, death toll estimates varied. But they're saying 800 people were murdered. Among the dead were local worshippers who had rushed to the church to defend its covenant, a wooden chest which is said to have been built to hold the 10 Commandments of Moses. Wow. I wonder if that's true. The Indiana Jones and the Ark of the Covenant. That's what it's called, isn't it? The movie? What is the box called that holds the 10 Commandments? It's called the Ark of the Covenant. It's a chest that held tablets engraved with the 10 Commandments. According to the Hebrew Bible, the Ark was constructed by the Israelites while they were camping out in the Sinai desert after they fled Egypt. Wow. That's kind of fascinating, really, isn't it, Paul? That's the kind of thing you're into, isn't it? That type of history. It's kind of amazing. All right, so don't know if Savage has left. It looks like who's the other guy that just popped in? Derek, the Ghetto Horse 23. Looks like he left. Paul's still with us, I believe. So this could be the last article that I go through. So we'll just see. China raping Tibetan women in separate crop of concentration camps. So essentially, this article tells us that in Tibet, the nuns, the women, and also the nuns are being raped by the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. And they're doing it for political reasons. Once raped, a nun will face difficulty being taken back by her monastery. And if they're kicked out of the monastery, the nun will essentially return to a secular life. So apparently, according to a publication called Bitter Winter, which is an online human rights magazine. So according to that source, which is backed up by Breitbart, this is a Breitbart article, somewhat backed up. You know, the allegations, which are very hard to prove, are that the Chinese government, CCP, are systematically raping women in Tibet and nuns in particular, and they're using cow prodders. You know, they're using cow prodders. I mean, I'll say it. You probably know what I'm about to say, but here we go. Here's a quote. They, the guards, had an electric stick. I didn't know what it was, and it was pushed inside my genital tract, torturing me with an electric shock. I mean, that's terrible. I mean, I think it's fair to say that any type of rape is terrible. But it seems that some forms of rape can be worse than others, because that's pretty fucking horrendous. Sticking a cow prodder up a lady's private parts. I mean, I'm not trying to be clever or funny about that. It's just terrible. And apparently that's what's happening systematically at the hands of the CCP, Chinese Communist Party, in Tibet. You know, not too different from what's happening with the Uyghurs in the Xinjiang region. The Uyghurs being held in, millions of them being held in re-education camps and tortured, starved, beaten, and forced to eat pork and bacon and whatever else, so that which goes against their Islamic beliefs. You know, it's terrible. And if we're to believe this article here, that's what the CCP are doing. The Chinese government. Can't say it's true. I don't know if it's true or not. Could be a load of lies. Some lady may have decided to lie to a journalist and make up the story about an electric cattle prodder being stuck up her vagina. I don't know why they would lie about that, but you know, it's possible. Paul says, I can believe it. It's supposed to contain holy power. Oh, okay. The Ark of the Covenant is supposed to contain holy power. Yeah, you would imagine. Indiana Jones, Ark of the Covenant. Are you a big fan of Indiana Jones, Paul? Oh, Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's it. Yeah, Raiders of the Lost Ark. That was the first one. And Temple of Doom was the second. Can't remember the third. Not sure if I saw the third film. And I definitely didn't see the one with Sean Connery. Oh, the Temple of Doom. Oh. Paul says they're excruciatingly wicked people, referring to the Chinese government, I believe. Yeah, Paul. I think I may have mentioned this before, but I've really only become aware of what happens in China since really COVID kicked off in January last year. But I mean, I go to a website, 4chan, and they have these collection of videos of Chinese people in certain situations. They have pictures, they have little videos of sloppiness, general manufacturing and construction work done in a very sloppy way. So bricks which are soft, bricks which are made out of cardboard, things like that. Bricks which are made out of corn of the cob husks. But also they have other videos of Chinese people dying in various ways, mostly due to incompetence. But some, you know, there's a video, one of many, but there's one of a toddler, a 2-year-old, being run over by a van, and then over the course of several hours, seemingly the videos, you know, just showing highlights or such, the toddler's still laying on the floor, presumably with its, you know, legs crushed, the lower part of its body crushed. And there's people walking past. There's little scooter motorbikes stopping to have a look and then carrying on, just driving past. There are cars driving past, and there's you know, another car drives over the toddler. They see the toddler, they stop, they see the toddler, and then they continue to drive over the toddler. And you know, it just seemingly goes on for hours, and just people. And this isn't the only type of video that I've seen. I've seen a similar video of an elderly man. He crosses the road. I can't remember what happens here. I think he crosses the road and he collapses because he's an old guy. He gets knocked. Then he gets run over. Then he gets run over again. You know, just people walk past and cycle past, and No one does anything. I mean, it's just insane. Anyway, that's what I've seen. So, Paul, I think I'm going to wrap things up here. Been going for just under an hour and a half. I've actually enjoyed this live stream. Hopefully, you have. Thanks again for contributing. I really appreciate it because it really adds to the enjoyment of me doing it. Hopefully, you enjoy it as well. I'm glad that we had a couple of people pop in, both of them new. Savage in particular, even though Savage wasn't really constructing sentences, I do appreciate his or her ongoing contribution up until the point they decided they had enough. But the other guy, what's his name? Derek the Ghetto Horse. It was nice of him to say something complimentary. Paul says, that's why the West is the best. To quote Jim Morrison and the Doors. Yes, the West is the best. Yeah, I was a big Jim Morrison and the Doors fan. I should listen to them a little bit more. Amazing music. So many songs of theirs. Truly amazing. Yeah, so I'm a big fan of theirs. I was hoping to talk about some cultural wars issues. There are so many cultural wars topics which are interesting. So many of them. I really want to go over them. So maybe I need to stop going over the US politics and just do a live stream just on those. So I've got a whole load of transgender based topics, which is quite controversial, and I'm reluctant to go over the transgender topic because I don't really want to offend people. And I know some transgender people online, and I wouldn't want them to be offended or to feel ill of me just because of some of the topics. Does Jenny Angel and Bpop have YouTube channels? Jenny Angel does. So she has one called Nosy by Nature. Let me double check that. Bebop doesn't, I believe. But Jenny Angel does have that channel, and I'll find it and I'll post the link so you can go there quite easily. And she does a live stream, I think, around once a week. She told people about at the end of the day, Bella told people about her live stream a few weeks back, so not that long ago. And she does a live stream with why can't I find it? She does a live stream with her friend, so another lady called Lottie, and she seems like a nice lady, this Lottie lady. So yeah, they do a live stream, and it's just general chit chat kind of thing, but it's quite fun. Oh, Paul asks, oh yeah, so that link there, Paul, will take you to Jenny Powell's joint channel, Nosy by Nature. Did Bella have a movie party for her Patreons? Yes, I believe she did. I'm not a Patreon. I'm not going to be a Patreon either. I don't spend money barely at all. I try not to spend money, and I don't want to go down the channel of spending money for YouTube creators or internet creators. I don't want to go down that channel. I don't want my wife to go down that channel either. So I won't be becoming a Patreon for that reason, really. Jenny is smart. She was good at trivia. Yeah, she was good at trivia, Paul. Yeah, she was. Yeah, she was all right, mate. She wasn't as good as me. Okay, so you know, let's put things into perspective. She was okay, but sometimes my computer's slow, and you know, she would get the answer first because my computer's slow. All right, Paul, I'm going to wrap things up. I've got to call my wife back. So thanks for sticking with me. Hopefully you had a little bit of fun. You're good too. Do you? Do I like Jeopardy? I don't really know Jeopardy. So I believe Jeopardy is they give you the answer and then you guess the question. I'm not familiar with that. My brain hasn't been trained in how to do that. So I gotta say I don't like Jeopardy at this stage. I'm afraid, Paul. Maybe I would learn to like it, but it's not in my repertoire at this stage. Jeopardy is not on. It's not on TV in the UK or Australia, or it wasn't. So it's not something we're overly familiar with. All right, Paul. So yeah, there we go. How are you going? So you were telling me that you're doing well before, and it's now, I don't know the exact time for you, but it's now somewhere between 10:30 and 1:30 a.m. So it's pretty late for you. Are you going to be trying to get some sleep, or you've lost all interest in sleep? You're doing your night owl thing. Do 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 do. Yes, I will slumber. Okay, well that's good to hear, Paul. Sleep is very important. So I'll definitely wrap things up now. So again, thank you very much for joining me, Paul. Hopefully you had a little bit of fun. Hopefully you enjoyed going through a few of those topics. Hopefully you'll come the next time I have a live stream. Hopefully Savage will, perhaps. What's the guy's name? Derek, the Ghetto Horse will too. We'll find out. All right, mate. Have a good night. Get some sleep. You have a good one.